In this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, it's been a little while. I'll explain why it's been a little while. But James has four prospects he believes that you need to take a long look at because he feels like they may not be getting the attention and the buzz that they deserve. Stay tuned to find out exactly the four prospects James believes you need to take a longer look at. Big shout out to each and every person that has made the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast your first listen of the day. I am your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, who happens to be my younger brother, James Barlowe. Before we get into this episode, I want to talk to you about the Locked On newsletter. Check it out at lockedondaily.com. It is your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox every day. So whether your team is in the playoffs, the play-in, or your team is headed towards the lottery, and that's why you're tuned in, check it out at lockedondaily.com. And also, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I know that's probably not the type order. I'm a little bit rusty, but please subscribe to the YouTube channel. In most cases, we are your source for NBA draft content 5 days a week. But if you've noticed, and I've had some people hitting me up asking me, man, where y'all been? I ain't seen you post in a while. Is everything okay? And let me explain why I haven't posted. I went to the doctor, man. I got hit with the trifecta: flu, strep throat, and ear infection. So obviously I wasn't in the mood to put up content. Then we had some technical errors or whatever. So that is why you haven't heard. We haven't posted in a few days. And I mean, I knew I was down bad, but I didn't know I was down that bad until I went to the doctor this morning. I was actually still going to AAU tournaments. I was just there in a mask on, staying away from everybody and just kind of been up top. But yeah, when I went in today and they told me flu, well, I went in Monday morning, flu, ear infection. I haven't had an ear infection since I was a kid, but flu, ear infection, and strep throat. I'll tell you this. They gave me a shot where the sun don't shine, and it got me right. I felt like a new man. After a few hours, and that is why I am here potting, and that is why James is here with me to share some players that we need to take a longer look at. It's been a little while since we potted, James. I mean, we talk every day. I saw you every day. But tell me, what made you do this deep dive into these prospects that basically you just feel like aren't getting the attention that they deserve?
Well, some of it is relatively speaking. So I feel like, I think Maxime Reynaud should be a consensus first round pick, but I think that where some people have him, you should look at him a little further into drafting him potentially higher. But I feel like guys are kind of under the radar. One of them is he played at a power forward, but it wasn't one of the big schools. And, my guy, Andrej Stojakovic, spoiler alert, he, to my knowledge, hasn't declared yet or even entered the portal. So, I mean, we're just at the point now where you're kind of like, a lot of people run their queries, or you liking who you like and you see who you see. But I wanted to give a special attention to a couple other guys who, maybe be falling under the radar just because the college season just ended and guys are going back to the portal. So we're kind of like scrambling, trying to figure out who's going to be a late first, who's even going to be a second round pick.
Yeah, I was just kind of messing around on my board. I wanted to wait until I know like who's staying or at least who's entering. The names are slowly coming in. I mean, I guess I just need to put one out and just make the changes when changes need to be made. But the draft is thinning out. The draft is definitely thinning out, which is, I think is going to be good for some guys. There's some guys that are probably, thought all year to be fringe first round picks that were, projected to go anywhere from 35 to 45, could end up being the top 25 pick. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But the money being thrown around is absolutely crazy. to the point where, if you're not ready to enter the draft, then you don't have to. You can get paid. The JT Toppin numbers, I did some confirmation, and it is true. And just based off of my math, if he's making $4 million this year, he's going to make more than the 13th pick in the 2025 NBA draft. So he's getting lottery money. And I just wonder, what happens next year if he has another strong year? Do they give him $5 million to come back? Who knows? But anyway, let's talk about the players that we believe are going to be in the draft and that you want us to take a longer look at. You got Maxime Reynaud from Stanford. I am a big believer in Reynaud. Had a conversation with an NBA GM a few months back, saying that I think he's the most underrated player in the draft. And so I'm high on him. Actually plan on going down to watch him do his pre-draft workout, get some footage, got the invite. So he should have some content coming out from us on him soon. I just got to, make sure that I'm good to go.
Right.
I'm good to go. But anyway, share me your thoughts on Reynaud, on why you feel like fans listening need to take a longer look at Reynaud.
So again, taking a longer look at Reynaud is a lot of it is based off of his draft position, where people perceive him to be. And I think at 7'1", 235, and you look at the production, I believe he almost was the first person since Tim Duncan to lead the ACC in scoring and rebounding. But he was 20 and 11, 35% from three on 5 attempts per game. He shot 48% on unguarded jumpers. He's an athletic 5 that can shoot the ball. And I believe he's a good passer, even though the turnover numbers are kind of high. But, you look at Stanford's roster, and he was the guy. He was 1A, he was 1B, and he was 2. And he almost led them to the tournament. I believe they lost to Louisville on a buzzer beater to, advance in the ACC tournament.
Fouled out that game.
And he fouled out. But I just feel like he probably should be a consensus top 20 talent, possibly even higher. We saw the buzz that Alex Condon was getting. I believe Reynaud is a better player than Condon. But I just feel like he should go a lot higher than what we think. But in the rare scenario that he is a late first round pick, I feel like Boston, Indiana, and Ralph, you like him. I think the Clippers should definitely take a look at him at the 5 spot. You think about Boston, Porzingis is penciling in for about 50 games. You got to maintain his injuries. Al Horford is older. I think the Celtics, you look at Reynaud, you don't sacrifice your scheme, which is 5 out, because he does have the ability to space the floor, and he can also pick and pop. And again, he's an athlete. I saw him live here at SMU, and he was going between the legs during warm-ups. Definitely an athlete, attack a closeout. And I just feel like at the 5 spot, yes, the younger guys are probably going to go earlier, but he should be I think, be the first older 5 to go.
I don't fully understand. Maybe it's because some people thought the ACC was weak, which, that's very, very valid. I don't know how you can be 7 foot, skilled, and quietly average 20 points and 10 rebounds. He's got work on both blocks, left hand, right hand. He can shoot. He can attack closeouts. I've seen him grab a rebound, push the ball up court, finish in transition. I've seen him make plays that I don't know if there's 10 7-footers in the world. I've seen him attack a closeout on the baseline, drive, Euro step around the defender looking to take a charge and finish. And then you mentioned the passing. Yes, the assist to turnover numbers are under the water. But when you look at the skill set and the actual passing vision, I think he can make high-level reads. And I think he'll be a much better passer. At least you'll have a much better feel of him as a passer when he's not asked to do so much. I think he's a lottery pick. Had this conversation with someone close to him, and I was like, I think the Wizards have multiple picks in this draft in the first round. I could be wrong. Yeah, they do. As of now, they have the number 2 pick and number 19. if he's available at 19, you got to take him. I think him and Sarr together would be pretty interesting. But I feel like the best fit for Maxime Reynaud is the Chicago Bulls at 13. I would take him at 13. This is just based off of the standings as of today, April 15th, while I'm recording. It's April 14th. But I'm taking Reynaud as a lottery pick. Yes, he's considered a little older because he's a senior, but he's not that old. 22 years old. And he is still developing because he missed a significant amount of time in his teenage years because he was a late bloomer and he had some injuries. He hasn't been playing basketball all that long. He was born in 2003, which is, for some people, they think that is older because he is 22, but Derek Queen was born in 2004. Late 2004, but if you're just going by birth year, which of course you can adjust anything to make it fit what you're trying to prove. But if you go by birth year, one was born in 2003, one was born in 2004, one was a senior, one was a freshman. But I like Maxime Reynaud, and I agree that fans, teams need to take a much longer look at Maxime Reynaud because, again, I think that he is a lottery pick. All right, up next, we're going to talk a little bit more about Reynaud and basically hear James's opinion and dig a little deeper in why he thinks Reynaud should be higher up draft boards. Spring is here and life is busier than ever between work, family, and everything in between. Who really has time for grocery shopping and meal prep? That is why Hungry Root is here. It makes eating healthy, delicious meals simple and stress-free. Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist all wrapped in one. They take care of grocery shopping and meal planning, offering personalized recommendations based on your taste and health goals. I love that Hungry Root will tailor your orders based on what you like or don't like. It gets smarter every time. With their high-quality, nutritious food, you can stick to your gut-friendly, high-protein diet without spending hours planning. And the meals come together in 15 minutes or less, giving you more time for workouts, family, hobbies, and, of course, to watch the NBA playoffs. So take advantage of this exclusive deal and get 40% off your first box, plus a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/lockedonnba. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's hungryroot.com/lockedonnba. Code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off and a lifetime free item. All right, second segment. All right, Reynaud. Do you feel like he's a player that could move up draft boards as we get closer to the draft?
I think absolutely. Like when you see him in workouts, again, you're going to see the athleticism. And like that's not like he's not just athletic for a 7-footer. Like he's legit athletic. He's going to shoot the ball well. And I think that, you look at last year's situation, the Nuggets moved up to draft Deron Holmes. Like they had him circled in. And unfortunately, he went down early. But I feel like a smart team should do the same thing. I don't know what Indiana's pick situation looks like, but they don't have a backup 5. Because Wiseman's out and Isaiah Jackson both out with Achilles injuries. Those are two guys who rely a ton on athleticism, so it's going to take them at least another year until they feel like themselves. So I feel like whether you have Reynaud as a first-round pick, we need to look at him to see how high he actually should go. And him at 13 is really interesting because Chicago definitely has a need at the 5 spot.
Yeah, that would be my choice. All right, let's switch over to another big that we've been high on. And I know for some people this may be repeat information, but obviously once the season ends, there's a new set of fans who have a deeper interest in the draft and may not have had much interest in November. I mean, I just think of Sixers fans. Sixers fans probably could care less about the NBA draft.
Cooper who?
A few months ago. Yeah, they probably knew Cooper Flag. Right, I think there's a Bailey kid at Rutgers. But now here you guys are, as a Sixers fan, you need to know. You need to pay attention to this draft. So with that being said, not saying that the next player is projected to be in the range where the Sixers are expected to be picking. But Hansen Yang, he's been a longtime favorite of at least the Barlowe brothers from the NBA Big Board crew. My first time seeing Yang was at, I don't even remember, U18s a couple years ago. It was one of the FIBA tournaments. And I just remember him giving Alex Sarr work.
Almanza
was
work.
One of the hotter names, and he gave him work. Just too big, too physical, too skilled, too strong. Let's hear your thoughts on Hansen Yang.
So again, what we talked about in the first segment, Ralph, with guys heading back to school, and you need to, reevaluate who you're looking at in, probably the second round. I think Hansen Yang is a guy. I feel like if I'm an agent of a center, I'm not having him work out against Hansen Yang because Hansen's going to beat him up. He's too good. He's too skilled. We're talking about a 7', 19-year-old. Yeah, he's playing in China, but he's averaging 16 points, 10 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 blocks per game. And I'm willing to bet that there is not a player in this draft who is more skilled on the block than he is off of both shoulders. He's got great footwork, strong frame. And then you look at and I don't know if this is a fair comparison, but you look at the leap that Ivica Zubac has made, right? He went from second round pick to this guy can play to he probably should be, most improved player and should finish in the top 3 in defensive player of the year. Now, Yang's offensive game, I believe, is legit, but there will be defensive concerns. Will he be able to keep up? It's a big jump going from seeing, one American guard in the CBA versus everybody is an athlete for the most part in the NBA. But again, he's blocking 3 shots per game now, and he's 7 foot and he's got good length. I think he's a high IQ player, and he's extremely talented. He's somebody I would definitely look at in the second round. And depending on the situation, he could be somebody that you can develop long term because, like I said, while he's been taught the game of basketball, he's got a great feel for the game as an offensive player on the block. And if you have the opportunity, ask the Charlotte Hornets Summer League team last year, when he did get an opportunity to get featured on the box, he was basically unguardable. Both shoulders, extends the ball high when he has the ball in traffic, and he's an extremely talented big. And I feel like Clutch signing him is yes, it's the stamp. You know what I'm saying? It's Clutch. We're talking about one of the top agencies in the game, and they did their homework and they got him. And I feel like he's going to be somebody that a team is going to you know what? Fan base may not get it at first, but when they see him in a couple years, when he's 21 and he's got more NBA experience, you'll be like, okay, I see why.
It's interesting that Hansen Yang is still underrated. And the reason I'm saying that is because just a couple years ago, you had the kid Kai Soto. And I understand the Chinese fan base is totally different than the Filipino fan base. But Kai Soto was shoved down our throat.
Mm-hmm.
Basically. And Kai was playing in Australia. And I think Hansen Yang is head and shoulders a better prospect. But I think it's debatable over who's the most skilled between him and Reynaud. I think they're both skilled. Yeah. I think Hansen has more post
skills, yes.
Moves. He's got some Kevin McHale head, shoulder fakes. He's got counters on top of counters on top of counters. Both the good passers. Hansen is a better passer, in my opinion. Hansen's got some. To me, he might be the best front court passer in this draft. And it depends on if you consider Cooper Flagg a front court player. I think Cooper Flagg is a basketball player. Yeah. But, I've seen Hansen find the cutters. He is a really, really good passer. There's going to be concerns. Can he defend this space? I did think that at the Summer League he showed some flashes, but the game was just too fast for him.
It's an adjustment period, man. Yeah. And like I said, I like him. Not this year. I don't expect as much of a Hansen Yang fan that I am. Even if he went to the worst situation / best situation would be him getting to crack the rotation as probably the third big. It's still going to take some time because, like I said, it's 2 different games. But if he's able to stick, the culture change and all that things, I think in a couple of years you could be like, oh man, we stole this kid out the second round.
If I'm Hansen's representatives, there are a couple of teams I'm targeting. Well, more than a couple of teams. Atlanta Hawks
Okay.
at 22nd pick. Atlanta. You put him on the court with Trae Young, he's gonna look good. He's gonna get you at least those because of physical size. He's gonna at least get
Yes.
you those easy points. The Clippers, James Harden. James look like he's got
I
another
have that
5
written
years. Obviously, the Lakers need somebody with size. There's the whole clutch thing there, and
down.
Luka will get him the ball. Not necessarily saying that he's a vertical lob threat, but I don't think Zubac is like a great vertical lob threat. I saw him catch a dunk a couple days ago. I'm like, dude, it looks like you're barely getting above the rim,
Man,
but
Zubac is cold.
he's getting dunks. And I have friends that played in China this year, and I was asking them their opinion about Yang, and they all agree that they think he could play. They think that he can play. They think defensively he's good enough to hang in the NBA. It's just going to be an adjustment. So we'll see if they're right, but I think Hansen Yang is a player that, and I've had him mocked at one point as a first round pick, and I think now with the way this draft is going, I don't think it's unheard of.
It's not a reach. Listen, I feel like, and I know that they're going to be picking a lot earlier, but my targets for him were Toronto, because there's a hole at the center position. Jakob Poeltl's got to be like 30, I believe. And I think Philly, yes, Adem Bonus played well in spurts, but you got to think you need at least 2 strong centers with Embiid, health. And then I like San Antonio with a second round pick, because again, there's going to be minutes to play. I mean, they got Bassey. They got Biombo was playing heavy minutes for me. I know that's a lot of that's because Wemby was out, but there could be an opportunity for him to develop and still play next to Wembanyama. And like you mentioned before, I like the Clippers too for him.
Yeah, would love to see a team, especially you have a good point guard and you have a good system in place. And then there's also some other teams where you're like, all right, the cupboard is empty. You can go play and create some buzz. All right, when we return, we're going to talk about Andrej Stojakovic. Now, I admit I was a little bit late to the party on Stojakovic. If you are running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table or potential money left on the table. Open Phone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications all through an app on your phone or computer. I just had this conversation a couple weeks ago. There was a friend of mine. They started a new business, which is like a counseling business. And they mentioned trying to balance out their personal calls and their business calls. And it was an older couple, and they went out and bought a whole new phone line. And I mentioned to them that they could have saved money because phones are expensive, and well, based off of what's going on in the world today, could end up becoming more expensive if everything. Anyway, that's a whole different subject. But anyway, all they had to do was use Open Phone, and I mentioned it to them. I mentioned that they don't need to carry 2 phones. With Open Phone, they can manage their business calls and texts in one app, whether they are at their desk, in their car, or on the go. And Open Phone is offering my listeners, 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedonnba. So check it out. Open Phone. No missed calls, no missed customers. All right, last segment. Andrej Stojakovic. I mean, he was highly touted coming out of high school. Obviously, the son of Peja Stojakovic, went to Stanford as a freshman, transferred. Man, him and Reynaud together, man, you feel like that team that they had, and you had the kid, what's his name, Cannon Carlisle or something like that. You feel like Stanford had some talent on that team. Would have loved to see Reynaud and Stojakovic play again, play together as sophomores, or at least in Stojakovic's sophomore year. But Stojakovic got game. The floor is yours.
So this is he hasn't declared yet. And he hasn't entered the portal. So I don't know. This is just me speculating. Maybe this is me pushing him into the draft, the test. I don't know. I don't have his number. But Stojakovic does not play like his father. And I mentioned before on a different podcast, Rob. He is like the Tim Hardaway Jr., Tim Hardaway Sr. thing where they don't play anything like their dads, and it makes you wonder how did that happen?
Yeah.
All right. Peja Stojakovic is more of a scorer. Excuse me, Andrej Stojakovic is more of a scorer than a shooter. He plays pick and roll. He plays bully ball. Again, his dad did post up and shoot that behind the head laser that always went in. But Andre is more of a scoring wing. I do think he does have some passing ability. Assist numbers aren't going to show it. But again, he was the man at Cal. But I feel like he is somebody that he fits the mold that I like my backup wings to have, which is you can shoot, pass, and dribble, and not just be a 3-and-D corner boy. Now, the shooting numbers are he's not the shooter that you would want him to be, but I feel like he's more of a rhythm guy. So the adjustment will be if he does declare and when he does get an opportunity to play in the NBA, we'll be able to adjust on a lower volume. But I'm definitely just buying him as a scorer. He got to the line 6 times per game, and he shot 82% from the foul line. And he doesn't have blazing speed. He has a knack for putting the ball in the basket. But like I said, snakes pick and rolls, good in the mid-range. He gets to the basket. And I feel like he's somebody that, if he does decide to come out, he's somebody you should definitely take a look at because, in a few years as he adjusts, his body fills out, shoot, pass, dribble. And I mentioned it before with you, Ralph. The teams that win championships, they're role players, they're role guys. You look at Boston. You look at Denver the year prior. You look at Golden State. They're role guys, shoot, pass, dribble. They just don't stand in the corner. So I feel like Andrej Stojakovic is somebody that we should definitely take a look at if he decides to test.
You're advising him. What do you tell him? Do you say, hey, the draft is somewhat thinning out? You have a good chance? So you're saying you would tell him enter the draft?
Yeah, I'm saying this. Enter the draft, keep your eligibility. I don't even necessarily think you got to enter the portal because like if you look at Jalen
portal.
No, don't enter
where you at?
Where you are. Because Jalen Tyson was at Cal last year too. And he ended up going 22nd. I feel like he probably should have went higher, but it is what it is. So like you have a system with a guy with NBA experience, you're gonna have the ball in your hands, and money probably isn't a thing for you. So just stay where you are, build your rep. But I feel like you should test because, like you mentioned, Rob, the draft is thinning out. Who's gonna be there? All it takes is one team to love you. And again, we're just trying to be a top 35, 40 pick. And there you go. So I feel like he definitely should give it a shot. And, and you got to think like 25 to 35, the wing spot, it looks like it's a lot of bigs or a lot of point guards. So
I don't know.
Who even really knows, to be honest with you? But you catch somebody on the right day on the workout, man, who knows?
Yeah, he's good, has good size, 6'7", he averaged basically 18 points, 5 rebounds a game, 2 assists, shot 42% from the floor. The interesting thing is it's easy to label him as a shooter because let's just be real. Complexion, if you're
heritage,
if you're international, and people are gonna assume you're a shooter. And I do think a lot of people assumed him as like this Peja Stojakovic, not necessarily clone, but a similar player because of his size. But he's a bucket getter. Now his dad can get buckets too, but he's not, and at least numbers wise, not an efficient shooter from three. Shot 32% as a sophomore and basically 33% as
but Ralph,
freshman.
Only 25% of his shots were catch and shoot jumpers though. So I think that goes to speak towards his workload that he had at Cal. Like he was the man, and sometimes you got to take bad shots, but I feel like, he had a higher volume when he played for the Compton Magic and he shot the ball better. Now, again, that's a different line. We're talking about the high school line versus what will be the NBA line. But I just think that in a scaled down role, he'll be a more efficient shooter.
Yeah. The biggest stat for me that just stands out when I look at his profile is he didn't get to the line as a freshman at Stanford. Like 1 free throw attempt per game, transfers to Cal, which it should be illegal to transfer from Stanford to Cal. Like, I just think I'm halfway joking here, but I just think it's weird to transfer from like hated rivals. So anyway, as a freshman, 1 free throw attempt per game. Transfers to Cal, and he gets to the line like 6 times per game. Only attempted 36 free throws as a freshman, and it's not like this was in limited minutes. This was in 22 minutes over 32 games. Goes to Cal, plays less games, and we tried to watch him play live when Cal came to.
Hey, but hold on, Ralph. Hold on. It wasn't just us. It was a lot of NBA scouts there.
A lot of NBA scouts.
A lot of NBA scouts there. So I know I'm not making stuff up.
Yeah, like, a lot of NBA scouts were at the game when Cal came to Dallas to play SMU, and it ended up being a game where we was just chilling with the NBA scouts. So on one hand, for him to not be there, it left a lot of time for us to interact with NBA scouts. But back to what I was saying, he shot 165 free throws as a sophomore compared to 36 as a freshman. All right, let's switch up. You have one more guy, and the floor is yours. I haven't seen this guy's name on hardly any draft boards, but the floor is yours.
All right, Ralph. So this one right here. I know the flavor of the day in the NBA is rim running bigs. Well, I got a rim running big for you. Yanic, Konan, and Niederhauser out of Penn State. He was at Northern Illinois his first 2 years. 22-year-old big, 6'10", 215. He is an athlete, right? Good motor. He's a rim runner, and he's got a decent back to the basket game. Now, I'm never featuring him on the box. I get it, but he has coordination and footwork, especially in the short roll. So you hit him at the foul line, and I've seen him on several occasions drive to the basket, make a spin move, and finish in traffic. So with that being said, we say, rim running bigs. I feel like you can catch them at any point. Draft them in the top 10. There's been mixed results. I think drafting the rim running big in the top 10, but you can get them at different points. With that being said, one of my favorite rim running bigs, and you look at him, the difference between him being whatever versus what he is now, just happened to be he got to play with a really good point guard, and that's Daniel Gafford. Daniel Gafford was a second-round pick. Daniel Gafford at Arkansas had a 10% block percentage. My man Niederhauser had a 10% block percentage. He blocks shots. He makes multiple efforts to block shots. He catches shots off the glass. Niederhauser isn't the rebounder that Daniel Gafford is, but essentially he has rotation big attributes. So if you want your backup big to block shots, rim run, and give you energy, I feel like he is somebody you should definitely take a look at. And he did enter the draft. He did maintain his eligibility, but I think he's going to be somebody when the workouts come out and you see him dunking everything, putting his feet on the glass, he might be somebody that sneaks into the second round. I will say this, though. I do think he does have a motor, but I don't know if his conditioning is the best. And maybe that's something that, has slowed him down. But again, he checks the box. Athletic, coordinated. He's got good hands. He blocks shots. He rebounds at a good enough level. I think he's somebody that you definitely should take a look at in the second round.
Yeah, he's got an interesting decision because the way that we talked about it earlier, the way that the money has been thrown around, there are a lot of schools that will pay a lot of money for a starting caliber athletic center. And he's the rare player that saw his production spike when he
moved up in the conference
from Northern Illinois to Penn State. Again, Yanic, Konan, Niederhauser, 7 foot, 250, averaged 13.6 rebounds by shooting 61% from the floor. He also blocked 2.3 shots per game. He is
that was good for second in the Big Ten, Rob.
Yeah, my rim protector, athletic, fits, the archetype that a lot of teams are looking for. At least you got to have one of those guys on your roster, in my opinion. So this is a player that James believes that you should take a long
stamp on it.
Look at
James Barlow's approval.
We'll see if Stojakovic and Niederhauser end up returning to school. Well, that wraps up this episode of the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast. Once again, thank you for making this your first listen of the day. I apologize for the delay in episodes. We'll make it up for you this week. We still have to cover the Team USA camp that was at Final Four weekend in San Antonio. We still have to cover the Nike Hoop Summit. I wasn't there this year, but Kristen Peak was there. Kristen had some interviews with some players, so stick with us. We are out of here.